Nubia, can you hear me? To the December 12th, 2022 regular city council meeting. At this point, I'd like to ask Nubia to call the roll, or our city clerk. One of the two.
Counselor Runyon,
Present.
Counselor Richardson,
Present.
Counselor Randall,
Present.
Counselor Long,
Present.
Counselor McLaughlin,
Present.
and Mayor Mays.
Present. Item 3 is Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to call on President the Council, Ms. Tim McLaughlin, to please lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
Item 4 is approval of the agenda. We do have 2 amendments to the agenda. 9C we'd like to add that. It's a resolution concurring with my appointments to the Fort Vales Museum Commission, and item 10F, which is a pay scale and compensation amendment. So I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll move. Second.
Counselor Richardson has made the motion, seconded by Counselor Randall. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5A is a proclamation for the canvass the vote of the recent election. Who's handling this? Is anybody?
Oh.
This is a proclamation that basically certifies the recent election.
It's maybe this one over here. Like that.
Oh, that's an individual. Proclamation basically says, whereas at a general election held at the state of Oregon on November 8th, 2022, there was submitted to the voters the candidates for office of mayor, city councilor, position number 1, and city councilor, position number 3. Whereas the city council of the city of the Dalles has canvassed the results, and the mayor, Richard Mays, was elected as mayor. City councilor, position number 1, Timothy McLaughlin, was elected to that position. And councilor position number 3, Scott Randall, was elected to that position. And now therefore, I, Richard Mays, mayor of the Dalles, I proclaim at the general election held on November 8th that those 3 people were elected. So do I have a motion? There's a proclamation. Yeah, there's no vote taken on proclamation. So with that, we'll move on to item 5B. The Dalles Purple Heart City. I'd like to ask 3 gentlemen to please come up and be recognized. Patrick Wilburn, Keith Withenall, and Larry Rupp. They'd like to come forward and recognize the city of the Dalles. This again is a proclamation certifying that the city of the Dalles is a Purple Heart City. Whereas the city of the Dalles, Oregon, and our community have a great admiration and the utmost gratitude for all the men and women who have and are selflessly serving their country and this community in the armed forces. Whereas veterans have paid a high price of freedom by leaving their families and communities and placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all. Whereas the contributions and sacrifices of the men and women who serve the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedoms and way of life enjoyed by our citizens. Whereas many men and women in uniform have given their lives while serving in the armed forces. Whereas the citizens of our country have received the Purple Heart Medal as a result of being wounded while engaged in combat with an enemy force, construed as a singularly meritorious act of essential service. Whereas the city of the Dalles seeks to remember and recognize veterans who are recipients of the Purple Heart Medal. And now therefore on this 23rd day of May, I, Richard A. Mays, mayor of the city of the Dalles, on behalf of the city council, proclaim the city of the Dalles a Purple Heart City in recognition of our community's Purple Heart Medal recipients. Mr. Wilburn, would you like to comment?
Mayor said, my name is Patrick, National Service Director for the Military Order of Purple Heart. These gentlemen behind me have the Legion 3 Commander Larry up the Department Commander of Oregon, Keith Wittenbach. We would like to bestow the Dalles, the city of the Dalles, an honor. Thank you guys, the Full Heart City. With this and your dedication supporting America and their freedom, I'd like to give you this. That you're doing the service combat with the veterans. And also for each city council position, I have little team crowd supporters for the medal of, for the Purple Heart.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also like to have a photo
We would like to-
opportunity
Thank you very
in
much.
front of the flag. Thank you. Thank you very much. Like the photo taken right in front of the flag.
I can take it if all three of you want to be in it.
Just push it that way.
What a nice hand for our group. It's not often we get two such nice things happening at the same city council meeting. We have another one coming up here, item 5C. We're here tonight to honor the cross-country champions of the Dalles High School who have won the state championship. I believe it's 4A. Is that right? First time since 1997. If I did my math right, that's 25 years ago. So this is a great honor for the community and for these young men. It's interesting too that they had the meet in Eugene and they won the district championship on October 26th. And there's different motivations, as I understand, for a lot of these kids and what made them try so hard to win the championship. One of the runners thought it was unfilled expectations that they had of themselves. Another one wanted to validate the team effort. And a third one just wanted to run with his twin brother. So they're all here tonight to be honored along with their coaches. So at this point, we do have certificates of appreciation to the kids and also a very attractive medallion that has the city of the Dalles on it with a beautiful mountain and the kind of the city logo on there. So we're going to give a certificate and a medallion to each of the kids. Before we do that, I'd like to call in the coach who must have done a fantastic job to get the championship where it is today. And I'd like to call on Jill to come forward and say a few words. We'd prefer you talking to the microphone.
Okay, sounds good.
Jill Pearson is her name. So go ahead, Jill.
Well, first of all, just wanted to say again and reiterate just how proud I am of this group of runners. They've put in a lot of miles and a lot of effort pretty much year round. So please keep an eye out for them. It's dark out right now and they're not allowed to get injured in the off season. And I wanted to extend my thanks to Bob Tuvenal and to Mandy Williams. I have the world's most overqualified assistants. Coach with the longest coaching record in Oregon, if I'm not mistaken, and the Dalles' fastest runner. So, yeah, like I said, the boys have worked incredibly hard. They've also been incredibly encouraging of each other, which is really nice to see in athletics and elsewhere, that they really do bring out the best in each other, pushing each other, and yeah, just being incredible, upstanding students as well. So I'm very proud. I'm very humbled. Shock still hasn't entirely worn off. So yeah, very proud of them. Thanks.
Thank you. As long as you're here, why don't you come up and get your certificate first? This certificate is presented in recognition of serving as the head coach of the Dalles 4A State Cross Country Champions We're grateful for your dedication to the Dalles High School cross-country team and the way you represent the city of the Dalles. On behalf of the city council and the citizens of the Dalles, please accept our congratulations. There's yours. There's your medallion. Next, I'd like to call up Bob Tuvenal, my neighbor. I see Bob walking a lot in the neighborhood, so I know he's training for the inevitable. So here's your certificate, Bob, and your medallion. That's right. Okay, we're going to start with the kids. First is Trey Hodges, sophomore. Go ahead. Make sure that. Congratulations, Trey. Joseph Lutz,
Stay up here, Trey.
another sophomore. Now we have a couple of freshmen, Noah Preston and Aiden Erickson. Oh, they're not here. Sophomore Caleb Caldwell. Is Caleb here? There he is. Caleb took 41st place, by the way, and was also his, as I understand it, his personal best at the state meet. Nice going. Tyson Long, a freshman who finished 40th at the state meet. These next two guys, as I understand it, they were quoted, there were two kids who, according to their coach, ran out of their minds. One, Caden McCavick and McCavick and Vincente Ziegenhagen. Did I get that right?
Vincent Ziegenhagen.
Yeah. Are you guys still out of your minds or have you settled down now? That's good. Congratulations. Vicente's twin brother, Egan. Oh, by the way, Egan placed 18th in the state meet. His brother, Vicente, placed 19th.
Their photos.
Now, a junior who placed 4th in the state meet, Leo Lemon.
Leo.
Leo also placed 5th in last year's meet. Is that right, Leo? 5th in last year? Okay. Okay, and finally, a senior, two-time runner-up, Juan Diego Contreras. Finishing his career at the Dalles, he's won 6 out of the 11 races this year. He's had 17 wins throughout his high school career, 2 district championships, and 2 runner-ups at the state meet. Congratulations, you guys.
Go up there, get in front, we'll shove them all that way. to get a
See if you can get centered here, guys, as much as you can.
picture. You're all on one side, get some on the other side.
Thank you again. Okay, item 6, audience participation. During this portion of the meeting, anyone may speak on any subject which does not later appear on the agenda. Up to 5 minutes per person will be allowed. Citizens are encouraged to ask questions with the understanding that the city can either answer the question tonight or refer that question to the appropriate staff member who will get back to you in a reasonable amount of time. If a response by the city is requested, the speaker will be referred to the city manager for further action. The issue may appear on a future meeting agenda for city council consideration. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the city council on any item that is not on the agenda? Yes, sir. Have a seat. Give us your name and address, please.
Good evening.
You'll have to pull that over to you, Bob.
Get the microphone in front of me. I know how to do that. Mayor Mays, Council President McLaughlin, councilors, my name is Bob McFadden from the Dalles. In November, I had an opportunity to travel to our sister city. My trip there really didn't have anything to do with Sister City, but had everything to do with Sister City. And you, Council President and Mayor were kind enough to write letters and send gifts. And one of those nice medallions. And I have for you tonight, bringing back letters from the mayor of Miyoshi and a gift for the mayor from Moto, who is Moto Yuki Matsunohana is pretty much the one who's run the Sister City organization over there. And if you don't mind, Council President, I'm going to read the letter. They're virtually the same thing. But Honorable President Timothy J. McLaughlin of the Dalles City Council. Honorable President Timothy McLaughlin, I'm very honored to send a message to you as the president of the city of Miyoshi City, or the council of Miyoshi City, that has for over 30 years a sister city relationship with our beloved city of the Dalles. Although the two cities are far apart and there is a difference in language and customs, we have been able to bridge these gaps and build a good friendship. I would like to express my deepest gratitude for the effort of all who have been supporting our sister city relationship. Let me once again express my deepest appreciation for the hospitality of the citizens who hosted our delegation every year. To our regret, we had to cancel our exchange program due to the coronavirus pandemic for the last 3 years. I long for a quick end to the pandemic and a resumption of the program. I send my best wishes for good health to you and the city of the Dalles citizens, and we anticipate travels in the near future. Respectfully, Roma Nishiushi, President of the City Council of Miyoshi. Don't mind, I'm gonna.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. Anybody have any questions for Mr. McFadden?
One question.
Mm.
So I'm the council liaison to Sister Cities. And I was wondering if the group is planning to start meeting again. I know they had paused because of COVID.
My understanding from the group over there or the group here?
No, the group here.
The group here. Amber wants to get started as quickly as possible. Yes.
Okay, great.
Probably not this year, maybe next year. But it's significant this year. It was 35 years ago that they first sent the delegation over here. The neat thing for me while I was there was meeting who were students in 1990 and now have children who are eligible to come over here, and meeting those families and hearing, I don't know how many times, over and over and over, that the trip that they made to the Dalles changed their life. I guess a couple of good examples of that. One couple who married, they now have a little boy who's about that tall, cuter than a button. They met on the exchange here in the Dalles.
Oh,
So a cardiologist who owns his own hospital on the island of Shikoku in one of the bigger cities, who came to the Dalles studying to be a pediatrician, but because of his stay here with 3 different doctors, went back home and told his father,
Now I'm going to be a cardiologist, and now has his own hospital and teaches throughout Asia. So, it's had some good end on that end, and I know some kids here that have gone on and done some things that they probably wouldn't have done without having that exchange. So thanks for your support. Been a wonderful ride for me for 35 years.
Thanks for all you've done too, Bob. Is there anyone else who would like to address excuse me, Ms. Corliss, did you want to say that?
Okay, great. I just want to make sure I'm connected so that we have representation at the city and so I can keep the rest of the council up to date.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the city council for up to 5 minutes for any item that is not on the agenda? Okay, we'll move on. Item 7 is the city manager's report. Mr. Cleaves.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple items for you this evening. One is just to, essentially repeat it, but it's exciting news. But at our council goal setting session, our community development director let the council know that the grant funds associated with the First Street project that we returned, some of those funds had been spent to date, and we received a waiver on repayment of those grant funds. So that was really excellent news. So I wanted to reiterate that at a full council meeting. Also wanted to thank everybody's participation in the goal setting session that we had. Appreciated your participation. And I wanted to give one last plug for the feedback forms that we had sent out on the council goal setting and how it was structured and how it was executed. I've received a little bit of feedback, but would really like your input to better next year's efforts. So if you can find some time to get that to myself or to Nubia, it would be very much appreciated. I also had the great pleasure of going down to the police academy last Friday with our chief of police. We had two officers graduate, Officer Reams and Officer Caminetti. And that is the first time I've been to the police academy graduation. And I want to thank the chief for inviting me down. It was a really great ceremony. It was very well attended. There was about 38 officers that graduated from all around the state, as far as Baker City and many other cities, of course. And so it's great news that we'll have them back and they'll be able to rejoin the department and spend more time in our community. I also wanted to let the council know that we are likely to be exploring or pursuing a CDS request or congressionally directed spending request associated with the hangar that we have in development in partnership with the Columbia Gorge Community College. As you may know, that we received an EDA award in a partnership with Klickitat County, but that award took about 2 years in the making. And so as everyone knows, costs and construction costs have escalated quite precipitously over the last couple of years. And so we still have a gap for that project. And so we're working with Richard Foster over at Klickitat County and Dan Spots at CGCC to explore that possibility. As you may recall, that was one of the projects that we brought back to Washington, D.C. as part of the community outreach team efforts. And I think the relationships and information that we establish on trips such as that can help with some of these CDS or congressionally directed spending requests. So there'll be more on that as it develops, but wanted to give the council a heads up. And other than that, that's my report.
Thank you very much. Council reports. We'll start on my right with Councilor McLaughlin.
Well, I want to bring this up because the Lions Club just screened over 1,300 students in our schools. And basically what that does is if you can't see, you can't learn. And that provides glasses and examinations for kids. So that was terrific. That was just a wonderful experience. And thank you to the Oregon Lions Foundation out of Portland, Oregon, that brought the staff out in order to do that. So I participated in that. I attend the goal session. Thought it was one of the finest that we've had in 10 years. It was well organized and well executed, and I appreciate the benefits of meeting together. I did meet with the St. Vincent's board last Wednesday with ongoing attempts to clean some of the area up around the St. Vincent's location on Pentland Street. And I'm pleased to tell you that that has been effective and successful. Let's see, Starlight Parade, the Port of the Dalles had a 1923 GMC in the parade, and the Lions Club advertised for the Christmas tree pickup coming up in January. That's my report for this week.
Thank you. Counselor Long?
Yeah, so I don't have a comprehensive report this week, but obviously I did attend the goal setting sessions with everyone else, and that took some prep work. And then I've met a couple of times with City Manager Cleaves.
Thank you. Counselor Randall?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On November 28th, I attended a briefing with the city manager and the mayor. November 29th, also attended the goal setting meeting. A meeting with the Historic Landmarks Commission scheduled for November 30th was canceled. That's been rescheduled for this Wednesday, the 14th. And on December 8th, I attended a Q Life meeting. And that's my report.
Thank you. Counselor Richardson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also, I attended the goal setting briefing session with yourself and our city manager and some other odds and ends. The last week or two have been putting in a goodly effort with the climate committee or the climate resilience task force, which might seem like sort of a issue that's a little big for the Dalles to take on, or sort of a far off, far away thing. But you know, we can do some things to prepare and adapt to warmer and more erratic climate conditions, and we're really trying to be mindful about that. And I think we're making good progress in doing so. And this isn't a report, but just sort of a note of gratitude. You know, it's that time of year to really sort of be mindful and be thinking about things we might be grateful for in our own life. And in the last week or a couple of weeks, I've had some conversations with constituents and others about various parts of the city, and every time I've been able to say that we have real confidence, well-founded confidence in our staff, in our excellent staff, and it's something I'm grateful for. You know, obviously we don't have everything solved. There are challenges to take up, but in multiple conversations, I've been able to give reasonable answers, reasonable context, and then also sum up by saying we have some really excellent people working. In the specific cases I was talking about, conversation about streets and such, some public works things. Someone else had some comments or some question to me about city finance, city money, budgets. And again, was able to give some context or some answer and end with, we have very high confidence in our staff, and for good reason. And the third was, the conversation was about police and seeing more police patrols. And we have for a while, perhaps that's confirmation bias, but it sure seems like there's more visibility. I think there's a lot of appreciation for that. And thinking back a year ago, we were short, we were a bit short staffed. We were a bit light in the police staffing, and what a difference a year makes. And so to sum up, I think if people don't necessarily always say it, there's at least those who know are very appreciative of our city staff.
Thank you, Counselor. Well spoken. Counselor Runyon?
Just a couple of things. The goal setting meeting on the 29th of November was very well done, and City Manager Cleaves did a great job of hosting us for that. And the mayor being the MC that day, but well done by staff. Briefing with the city manager and the mayor. I had a separate meeting with the mayor during the last week or so. Local Public Safety Coordinating Council met at Norcor on the 6th of December. I think I've been on that committee for going on, I don't know, 12, 13 years at least. And lots of things happening out at Norcor, and good things, organizational things, which I think will make it more efficient. And on the 8th, I met with Q Life, and Matthew Klebs led us on that one. So if he has anything to add about that meeting, I'll let him do that. But well attended. It was a well attended meeting.
Thank you. I'm going to forego my report and hand it over to our city manager. I was negligent not to ask him to make a report about the downtown lights. So I'd like to get maybe it would be of interest to everyone here as to what's going on with the downtown lights. Mr. Klebs?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And if I may also take the opportunity to give a brief update on Q Life as well. So as many people know, Q Life is an intergovernmental agency between Wasco County, City of the Dalles, MCMC, and other area partners to build middle mile fiber in most cases, some last mile as well, on a carrier neutral basis. So different internet service providers can utilize Q Life's fiber to better bring service to our constituents. And we have a number of different projects in the works all across the city. And so it's still always exciting to see those projects move forward as we deploy more and more fiber for commercial and residential services, and exploring different ways to keep and maintain Q Life's edge with the products that we offer. Q Life's been around for, I don't know exactly how many years, but about 15 years or so. And I think has had great success in improving some of the connectivity that we have. I'll use the opportunity to mention the downtown Wi-Fi. We've had a lot of comments about the downtown Wi-Fi and some of the difficulties that it's had. That is one of the projects our upcoming economic development officer will be focusing on, looking at that system and how improvements can be made to it, as well as its overall intent and mission. To the mayor's comment about the downtown streetlights, we've been having back and forth conversations with the Dalles Main Street. Very supportive of the lights on the downtown streetlights that we have. It's one of the first projects I undertook when I was at the Dalles Main Street. And I think it really has some great benefits, in particular in the darker months when sun goes down at 4:30 and whatnot. I think the intent is still to have lights up on the street lights throughout the year. But one of the things I want to be most assured about is that the lights are properly maintained, that when they break or are damaged, they're replaced, and that they remain adequately secured and wrapped around the downtown streetlights. So we had some correspondence with Main Street today, actually, and so I think there's positive movement in that direction. Once we kind of polish off a letter agreement detailing roles and responsibilities and being ensured that they'll be properly maintained going forward. So looking forward to that.
Are they expecting to get something from us at this point, or are we getting something from them? Is the ball in their court, or is it in ours to move forward?
We have a letter agreement that details those roles and responsibilities that I've sent over to Main Street. And I think once they've reviewed that and provided their signature and return to us, to return to the city, we can move forward on the project.
Great. Thanks very much. Any questions about any of the reports? Okay, moving on. The consent agenda is item 9. Items of a routine and non-controversial nature are placed on the consent agenda to allow the city to spend its time and energy on the important items and issues. Any counselor may request an item be pulled from the consent agenda and be considered separately. Items pulled from the consent agenda will be placed on the agenda at the end of the action items section. Tonight, we have 3 items on the consent agenda. One is the approval of the November 14th City Council meeting minutes. Secondly, the approval of the November 29th goal setting session minutes. And third is the one that was added to the agenda earlier. It is a resolution concurring with my appointments of Eric Leeson and Tracy Griffiths to the Fort Dalles Museum Commission. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Counselor Randall and seconded by Counselor Long to approve the consent agenda. Is there any questions or discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you very much. Item 10A is a resolution approving a rate increase for the Dalles disposal. Would you like to come forward, Mr. Winterbottom? I'd like to turn it over to our city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Winterbottom, for attending to answer any additional questions that the council may have. Just a couple comments or notes here. You have the agenda staff report included in your packet. As the council knows, we had a presentation from the Dalles Disposal at our last meeting. And tonight we are considering an action to request to approve the rate increase of 7.37%. And so just a couple of comments from staff. We've met with Mr. Winterbottom and had some dialogue back and forth and exchange of information to review the financials and some of the supporting documents related to their request, as well as looking at some of the comparables from other communities, noting, some of our neighboring communities such as Hood River and Wasco County have received a similar rate increase, and that this rate increase received a positive recommendation from the Solid Waste Advisory Committee to the Wasco County Board of County Commissioners. Staff recommends adopting the resolution approving a rate increase of 7.37%. You may note in the motion language there that there's some phrasing about averaging, as some minor adjustments may be made from product to product, kind of a rounding situation there. I also wanted to make note that the franchise agreement with Dalles Disposal expires next year. And so we'll be working on negotiating and renewing that franchise agreement. We'll be certain to bring that back to council for consideration and approval. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. I included some comparable data in the staff report, in particular, looking at kind of typical or more typical standard 32-gallon service and their costs with some of our neighboring communities. And that concludes my staff report.
Okay, before any discussion, Mr. Winterbottom, is there any comments you'd like to make?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Last time I was before you, you had asked list of services that we either donate or partially donate here in the community. I got a list to run over real quick with you if you'd like.
Sure.
These are organizations that we provide trash service for at no cost or discounted cost. The Kiwanis Club, they have an annual steak feed, as well as a car show. Dalles Art Association, West Mural Festival, second Saturday cleanups, city cleanup first Saturday in May, Lions Club Christmas tree collection the first Saturday in January usually, Prairie Festival, Civic Auditorium, Salvation Army Thanksgiving dinner, St. Mary's Bazaar, Community Meals, Discovery Center, MCC AC Pallet Shelter, City Cans, Cruise Ship Dock Area, Taylor Lake. Those are just the ones that we actually have a report on. I'm not sure how many more. I wanted to comment on the ones that we know.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions or comments for either the staff or Mr. Winterbottom?
The end of Second Street cleanup, you sent a crew out there and cleaned it up at no cost, and thank you for doing that. I can come up with a long list of things that you do, your company does for this community, and I appreciate that.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution. Council Runyon,
Move to approve a resolution approving a rate increase averaging approximately 7.37%, resulting from increased operational and disposal fee costs incurred by the Dalles Disposal Service, and for that to be effective January 1, 2023.
is there a second?
McLaughlin will second.
It's been moved by Council Runyon and seconded by Councilor McLaughlin to approve the rate increase, a resolution approving authorizing the rate increase. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
You appreciate it.
Item 10B is a resolution authorizing transfers of budgeted amounts. Our Finance Director, Ms. Angie Wilson.
Evening, honorable mayor, members of council. You have before you my agenda staff report for budget resolution 22-40. It's authorizing a transfer of budgeted amounts in the IT department of the general fund of the City of the Dalles adopted budget, making appropriations and authorizing expenditures for this fiscal year of year ending of June 30th, 2023. This resolution is asking to move $50,355 from the contingency fund into the general fund, specifically the IT department. The staff is requesting $20,355 going to the IT department for the cybersecurity policy. And then we're also requesting $30,000 to be transferred to the IT to allocate for more resources to be available to execute the potential upcoming IT changes and developments that are unknown at the moment. With making that transfer, we will still have $503,000 and $519 in the general fund contingency that will still be available up through June 30th of 2023. Being midway into the fiscal year, I feel like we're sitting in a really good position. Anybody have any questions?
Remind me, what did we start about round numbers? What did we start our fiscal year with in the contingency?
I believe we spent about 200,000 of that this year. Mainly that was primarily due to the original the police department had the lease that the change due to GASB 87. So that pulled out a big portion of that.
He's asking how much we have in the contingency at the beginning of the year. Is that what you were asking?
It was around a couple 200,000 more. So it was about 700 and something.
Thank you.
So
Any other questions?
No.
Counselor Long?
Yeah, so just sort of for the public's benefit, when you say cybersecurity policy, you're talking about an insurance policy. And can you explain what that does for the city and why we want it?
The insurance policy is something that the city manager and the HR director have worked on quite a bit, trying to find that safety of the city for the
Okay, so
networking.
plain English, it's in case we get ransomware or something like that.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
Tillamook.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure that people knew what it was and why it's so important that we add it.
And if I may add, the city has a cybersecurity policy now. This was a far more robust policy that'll better protect the city from those type of potential attacks.
Very good for our citizens. It's very, yeah.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the budget transfers?
Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor, I can go do that. You hit the next one.
Counselor McLaughlin?
All right, I move to adopt resolution number 22-040, authorizing transfers of budget amounts in the IT department of the general fund of the city of the Dalles budget, making appropriations and authorizing expenditures for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023.
Counselor Richardson, I take it you want to second the motion?
I'd be happy to, Mr. Mayor. I think it's very prudent use of our funds.
Great. It's been moved by Counselor Long and seconded by Counselor Richardson to approve the resolution authorizing the transfer of funds.
No, I didn't.
I did.
I'm sorry, it was Counselor McLaughlin who made the motion.
I'm just over on this side of the table.
Alongside.
Our hair is confusing him.
Oh,
Is that it?
Yeah.
although, don't leave yet. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And let me be the first elected official to wish you a very happy birthday, December 27th. You will turn up. I'm not going to say it.
21. Thank you.
All right. Okay,
Hmm.
item 10C. A resolution assessing 3 properties for the costs of abatement. I believe this will be our city attorney, Mr. Kara.
Thank you very much, Mayor Mays, members of City Council. It's resolution number 22-037, assessing the real properties located at 475 Knoll Drive, 1612 East 13th Place, and 750 Hostetler Street here in the Dalles, Oregon. This is very typically a type of resolution that you might commonly find on our consent agenda. In fact, when we were preparing for this resolution, which is resulting from the abatement of these properties for noxious vegetation coming out of the summer months. They were all posted in the month of August when it was quite hot. I remember the city clerk and I had a conversation about, well, do we want to do 3 separate resolutions or one resolution? And we ended up deciding on one because they were rather non-controversial, and we figured it would just be a more straightforward task just to do it all in one resolution for you all to consider here tonight and put it on the consent agenda. But sometimes the property owner will contest or protest the imposition of some assessments. And so it's my understanding that at least, well, only one of these property owners, Mr. or Dr. Fu, who appears to own 475 Knoll Drive, has sent in a letter protesting the abatement of some noxious vegetation from their property. I asked the city's codes enforcement officer, Nikki Lesich, to appear here tonight to provide some facts if necessary. And she's here in the audience. Thank you very much for attending here tonight, Nikki. Again, it's something that's very common, and you've all seen it on the consent agenda. The only reason it's here before you tonight as an action item is because of the contest by Dr. Fu. And so, Mr. Mayor, it would be very appropriate to offer Dr. Fu the opportunity to be heard and to present evidence for why he might want to be protesting this abatement.
Dr. Fu, would you like to come forward? We know your name and address, so you don't have to. Would you talk into the microphone, please? Thanks.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I really appreciate it. I actually enjoyed the meeting that you guys have, and wonderful. Thank you for serving the city. I hate to be in this position, but I think the main reason I have is because of the I think the miscommunication that happened during the process. So I was sent several evaluations, and then there's letters and tell me what I need to do. So I go with the letter and go around the property and take care of the thing. So I think after about 2 attempts, I think there was a letter, and then I had a conversation with Miss Nikki about what needed to be done. And she said, well, why don't you, have this contractor that we trust, and you go ahead and have him take a look, and we trust him, and he can take a look and tell me what I need to do. And so I called this gentleman, and he said, well, I'll go around and, take a look at the property and tell you what you need to do. And then he went there, and he basically went around and said, well, there isn't very much need to be done, but there's a few things you need to do. He pointed out a few things, and they say, well, it's a couple $100, I can either do it or you can do it. I said, well, based on the last picture I have and based on the stuff that I did the last round of cleaning. So, and so I wasn't, I think that would take care of it, because that was the person who supposedly was trusted by the city. And I think I figured out what needed to be done. So I did that. And then, after that, I got this post on my garage saying something about, and I wasn't sure this was before the last time, or after that I talked with the last gentleman. So I didn't act immediately. And I think after maybe a couple weeks, because I have a pretty busy schedule, things pass pretty quickly. And then I think the city sent out a crew and did a cleaning, which, it surprised me a little bit, but it happened. And then the next thing I got a bill was I think it's $1,200 or something like that. It was blow me a little bit, from what I was told by the last guy, that he said, well, there's a couple $100 you can, take care of it. So, so I think the entire process was kind of misleading me, because I want to abide what is being required, and I try not to be ignorant of anything that's in there. So every time the pictures, I go around and look for the pictures. And so I think, for that reason, I just think that, this is so out of my expectation, and I feel that's not fair. So that's why I wrote the letter, not mean to be, causing any troubles or causing any being difficult or anything like that. So I'm just, I try to obey the law and serve the city and serve the people. And so it's, I'm not trying to be troublesome. But thank you for giving me the opportunity, and I would respect whatever you say about it. But that's kind of the whole thing. But I did really try my best and go around the property and did things I thought I needed to do. And but the last, I think the communications and all the there was a lot of big difference from what I get from the last bill, what was cleaned versus what I was told. Yeah. So, but thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Why don't you stay there, sir? There might be some questions for you. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. For
Dr. Fu.
Dr. Fu or the staff? I have a question for you, Dr. Fu. In your letter, you say in the second paragraph, I did several rounds of cleaning around my property throughout the summer, each time according to the instructions and pictures sent to me from Code Enforcement Officer Nikki Lesage. So she sent you pictures of the problem as well as instructions on how to fix the problem. Is that what you did?
Yes. There's the pictures in the most areas that I think that's the highlight of it. Yeah, so I read it and then go through the stuff like that. I climbed the steep hills and I did quite a bit of stuff that so that's true. Yeah, at least I can remember about 3 times going around the property. Yeah. So
Okay. Any response by the staff at all?
Mayor Mays, I did ask the codes enforcement officer to appear here tonight to address any of council's questions. She is by far the subject matter expert on this issue. And if it pleases the council, I'm happy to pass the microphone over to our codes enforcement officer, Ms. Lesage.
How about your name and title, please?
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. I'm Nikki Lesage, City Codes Enforcement under the supervision of the Police Department. And I am the one that handled the abatement case for Dr. Fu's property. I do have a printed out timeline, if that's helpful for you, for my case notes to show the correspondence, dates and times and conversations that I had with Mr. Fu. Would that be helpful?
Yes.
Pass them out?
Sure.
It's.
Yeah.
Then you can fix it.
There. You got a stack there,
I've
Jonathan.
got a stack. This was just for me, right? Thank you.
We can share. I share.
Thank you.
As you read this timeline, I'll give you a little more information. All letters, the letters that were sent during the abatement process were sent certified as well as general mail. As I understand from Dr. Fu's response to the city clerk, that he doesn't check his mail often, so he missed the timelines to respond. And you can see as the timelines, it started in July 10th. We actually didn't do the abatement till September 19th. In between that time, there's been several conversations with Dr. Fu, mailings. And like he said, he did get pictures specifically to outline what he needed to do. Attached also to that detail is an additional letter that was sent in addition to our normal process, because there, if you recall, there was a fire in that area that had that neighborhood on standby for eviction. So I felt it was very important to let him know, because this property is vacated. There's no one there. There's no irrigation for the property, which leads to the high vegetation and a great deal of puncture vine. In the abatement, we do send it out to bid for lowest bidder. The next bidder was over $1,000 more. So we did get a good bid on our bids. There was one commercial dump truck full of vegetation and 13 bags of puncture vine that were pulled from the property. This was inclusive of a fire protection round around the property because of the fire and because of the ordinance violation of tall vegetation. We went 20 feet into the lot. We could have enforced more, but checking with the fire department, they were comfortable with the 20 feet. And also that it's such a steep side to that property that it was unsafe for the contractor to go any further.
Did I see something that Dr. Fu is is he a full-time resident?
Yeah, I work and I stay most of the week here, but the letter is being sent to my address in Portland. Yeah, so I do have a place in there. So every time the letter got sent to there, and then it's certified because if there's nobody there, so it got hold in the post office. So when I go back there, usually, if there's a notice in there, so I would try to go to the post office. The post office closed also on Saturdays and Sundays, so it leave me with very difficult time trying to pick up the communications because I work here during the weekdays, but the letter sent to there. When I go there, that's the weekend, so I don't get to pick up the letter. So I kind of like there was a delay because of that, and then there's a couple letters that was a pretty good delay until I really take early time off trying to go to the post office to pick up the letter. So there is some delay of that for sure.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I have a question for the codes enforcement officer. Nikki,
Mhm.
when you send these letters, you send them certified mail
I send them certified and regular mail.
and regular mail.
Yes,
That's your pretty usual custom, isn't it?
yes, it is.
Why is that?
So that if there's difficulty getting to the post office during working hours, that you will get it in your box and have it by general mail. Both certified letters that I sent were returned as unclaimed, which they keep them for approximately 13 days before they send them back, but none of the regularly mailed letters returned.
Thank you.
But I have never received a regular mail that of the same as certified. I've never received one, so I don't even know what's in the certified mail because I never got a regular mail of the letter. If you send a duplicate, I never received one because I just never got them.
So for information and educational purposes, we, the City of the Dalles, when we do abatements, we take our information from the county tax assessor's office, and that's who we mail. So if you receive your tax returns to that mail, you'll also receive any mail from us. If Mr. Fu or any public wants that changed so they can get their mail in a different way, maybe a more expedient way, it would be up to them to change that at the county tax assessor's office, not for the city to make that change.
So perhaps the problem lies with checking your mail or
No. I got anything that's not certified, I get them. But I'm so surprised that there's like 3 letters got sent. I only have the certified that I was posted on my door. That's how I get because I don't even know what I'm getting. For the last letter, it take me like several weeks, and I have no idea what's coming there because I do see it from the City of the Dalles eventually when I go on the tracking. But if I have a letter not certified, I would promptly act on it because I don't know why I didn't receive it, but I do receive tax bills. But I'm so surprised that I received no regular. There's like 3 on the same date being sent out. The only thing that I was going to notice is the certified mail. So I have no idea. That's beyond my ability to figure out why is that the case. But I do get my tax bill. That's not certified, and I just get it. I don't know. That question, I do not have any clue on that, and I'm surprised so much by this.
Councilor Long?
Okay, so I have a question for each one of you. So Dr. Fu, you mentioned a couple times that there was a notice posted on your house.
No, that's only the last time that with
Okay.
yeah, that was the last. That must be in August or early September, or somewhere in there. She may have a notice, but I don't remember.
Okay. So,
That's the only one.
so this had been going on since 2021 and
No, the 2021, I think that's resolved.
well, what I'm saying is there were interactions with our code enforcement officer. And so you knew that she had concerns off and on, at least about your property, and you got a notice posted, but you didn't call her or call the city to ask for details right away.
Oh, the last one, the confusion was that it was in a place that I don't really kind of see. Because it's kind of on the side of the building on the window in there. And I just, when I get home dark, I just drive into the garage. So I didn't see, so I don't know if that notice was before I cleaned the last one or after the last one. So I wasn't sure on that one, what day was being posted. And then since I did the last round of cleaning again, when I have the last set of pictures, I go around and take those things. And I thought that maybe it was before that. So the last round, I do see the notice, but I don't know what day was that being posted. And I thought that maybe that was before I did the last cleaning, so which I thought I completely complied with the last letter. That's why, yeah.
But
Now-
you knew all along that if it wasn't cleaned satisfactorily, that we would do it and charge you for it. And so you found that letter posted and you didn't know when it happened, but you didn't call anybody to make sure you weren't going to get charged.
No, I didn't know that, whether that, the timing of it, that's one question. The second question is that I thought that she would communicate with me before anything and tell me what is, I'm still waiting for the last response after my last cleaning. I thought maybe that notice was before that. So that was my, the timing wasn't very clear. Plus the delay of the mail, so that everything has a little lag in there. So I don't know for sure on that last date.
I guess I'm just thinking that if I was afraid I was going to have a big bill and I wasn't sure about something, I'd make a quick call
Well,
to
I mean,
follow up on
that's
it.
another surprise because I was talking with the contractor that the Nikki Trust. This person told me the contract a couple $100. It's a simple thing that he said, well, you can take care of it. I can take care of it. I thought I was under the impression I was very close to being compliant. That's why, because I feel I did so much stuff, that you talk about the hill. I climb on the hill to, use the weed whacker to whack all the weeds and stuff like that. Bad that I didn't take a picture because I did a lot of things to it. I just wasn't aware of the last time I saw I was so close to it. And it sounded like I was far away from it. So there was a lot of, I think that frustrated me a little bit.
Okay, so, and then my question for Nikki, just on multiple of occasions, I've talked to you about all the steps and all the ways sometimes you get in trouble actually from the city for not moving fast enough on people. So can you paint me a picture of what the property was like and whether a reasonable person would know at the time that you decided to go ahead with the abatement, that it was not in an acceptable condition, or was it questionable?
It was not questionable. I do want to clarify first before I answer, Counselor, that in every letter that I have, it always includes that the violation and the definition of that violation with our municipal codes. And then it states all of which can result in the imposition of fines and or liens upon the property for the cost of removing the nuisance conditions by the date stated in this letter. So every letter did specify there was going to be a consequence for not responding. When Dr. Fu had said that he had had the vegetation taken care of, and I did that inspection, some of the vegetation was down but was not removed, which still makes it fuel. So if you have 3 or 4 feet of vegetation and you chop it down, you still have fuel and it's still a fire threat. Also, because of the fire that happened right up during this time that he was still in his compliance allowance where he come into compliance, I reiterated again, which is the attached letter, to let him know that we had an issue with a fire that had evacuation orders for the neighborhood, and that it was very important that he comes into compliance with that timeline, or we would move forward with the abatement. And that was the purpose of the additional letter that was sent to Dr. Fu. So no, there was with 13 bags of puncture vine and a truckload of vegetation. And the trees I did not address at the time because it was not at the beginning of the abatement. Part of the abatement was clearly in the last letter that I sent that this was something to address, but I did not have it in the abatement because I didn't have the proper timelines to let him respond to that. So I did request that I have a arborist report to let me know that the trees are healthy and can remain the way they are, or to remove the trees because of fire threat.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have two other issues for this abatement business. Is any other questions for Dr. Fu? Council Runyon?
Real quick. The contractor you referred Dr. Fu to, is that somebody the city uses on a regular basis?
He usually bids on our abatements. He's usually the lowest, not always, but he's very aware of the ordinances and how to bring them into compliance. And the timeline, if you look at the time that Dr. Fu talked to the contractor and the time it was abated, is a huge growth period of 3 to 4 weeks in a very hot climate. Vegetation was regrowing, continuing to grow, and the fire protection around the property was needed.
Dr. Fu, did you have a work order with the crew that you talked with?
No, I think I did most of the work myself.
You said you spoke with a crew.
Verbal, it's only a verbal. There's
Have a
no,
written work order to do the job?
no, I don't have to, I didn't hire him because he said there's not so much things to do. He said it's probably $200 worth of work to do. So we talked a little bit and then I thought, I can take care of it. And I think that's kind of toward the end of the summer. I had disagreed that there's a growth spur because the growth spur is really in the spring and in the summer. By the end of it, it's up to me to kind of like whack down things a little bit and trying to get things seen along the area that was picture was being shown.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify what I'd heard.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Dr. Fu or Nikki on this one? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Is there anybody else who would like to address the city council on this issue? Okay, I'll open it up for discussion or a motion.
Thank you very much, Nikki.
Stood together at the end, isn't that correct?
The three, you mean?
Resolution with all three listed on it.
Right.
So we just go on to going through the next one.
So, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I mean, go ahead. Do you want to address the other two issues?
No, not particularly. Again, this is about as common a municipal practice as it gets when it comes to assessing abatements. The only reason this is an action item and the only reason that I'm presenting it and prepare the staff report for this is because of the protest. And so with the protest, it seems to be heard. Absent either the property owners for 1612 East 13th Place, Karen Hansen, or 750 Hostetler Street, George Rathwick, appearing here tonight. The staff report speaks for itself. You'll find attached to it resolution number 22-037 and the staff's recommended motion language. But it seems that council should just consider the comments made by Dr. Fu and the codes enforcement officer and the facts presented to them in the staff report to inform their decision with respect to whether to assess the abatement as presented or otherwise. If council otherwise agrees that the full and final assessment for this abatement for 475 Knoll Drive, Dr. Fu's property, should stand at the assessed amount or at the amount actually paid by the city to the contractor of $1,200, then it would be appropriate to adopt the resolution as presented. Otherwise, it would be helpful and staff would appreciate council's specific instructions with respect to any adjustments they might want to make or deem necessary in their determination of the assessment.
So the council can either adopt the resolution as it's presented, which includes all three properties, or they can get a motion to delete one of the properties off the resolution or more.
Or adjust any of the assessments.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody want to make a motion to do one of those things?
Before, before we move on, is Karen Hansen in the audience? Or George Rathwick? All right, thank you.
Anybody would like to make a motion consistent with the staff recommendation, which is to adopt the resolution assessing all three properties or some other alternative? Counselor
Mayor.
Richardson? Counselor Richardson, then
Yeah,
Counselor
I'm
Randall.
going to voice a thought and just sort of seek the wisdom of my fellow counselors, I guess. I have to admit to being a little frustrated with as a fellow president with Dr. Fu in that there were these communications, there were these concerns articulated, and he's a educated, intelligent, capable person, and feel like he probably needed to close the loop on this and get it done. And yet, I guess at the same time, I appreciate that he's also a busy person and made some efforts to do so, even if they weren't didn't quite meet the mark. So I'm wondering if there's appetite, and if so, then I'll make a motion to abate at 50% of the abated cost for that property.
I have a question then. Is direct cost to the city, that means the city has paid already for the cleanup? So that's charged back to the property owners as a lien against the property? Got it. I got it.
And the contractor has been paid $1,200. Right. Okay, Counselor Richardson is asking if we would consider reducing Dr. Fu's assessment by $600. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm thinking the only thing we are allowed to adjust, since we've paid the contractor, is the fee that the city charges,
Mr.
which
Mayor.
is 500, right? Was that charged in this case? Or are we just talking about the contractor's price only?
So typically, in nuisance cases, you'll find this administrative charge of $500. It's assessed to the property owner. It becomes a lien as part of the rest of the abatement. In the case of noxious vegetation, there is no $500 administrative fee. So you'll only find the $500 administrative fee that you're referring to in cases of junk, litter, other incidents of nuisance abatement. But in the case of noxious vegetation, which is what this is, puncture vine and the like.
Okay, so we're only talking about the money paid by the city to cover the contractor's bill.
Isolate.
Then I don't think we have anything room to adjust there, in my opinion.
And so just to be clear, the council can adjust it to any number that it likes from 0 upward. The city's already paid the money, and so any adjustment would be coming out of the city's pockets. But you have the ability to make the adjustment. I just want to make that clear.
Counselor Long.
So I'll just jump in and be practical here. I understand what the claim is about not having proper communication, but I can see a lot of communication here. And also the argument that Dr. Fu is very busy is not, a lot of poor people are very busy too, and we should treat everybody the same. If anything, he's more capable of understanding the legalese or having somebody explain it to him than anybody else. He had the opportunity to hire a contractor and chose to do it himself. I don't think he should get an exception from what other people have. I also don't think it should be more because of those factors. But I'm saying I don't think he should get a break. And we've had other people come before us and miss deadlines and have issues. And, you know, I just feel like it's actually not very plausible to me that he didn't know that he was going to get fined and he should have been communicating with codes enforcement. She does a lot of communicating with people.
And you alluded to the precedent you're afraid would be set. I think I
Correct.
heard you
Yeah.
say, yeah. Dr. Fu, please be very brief.
I never refer that I'm busy. That's the reason that there's this. I was just citing on the miscommunication. I don't think the reason I'm here is not to, show that I'm busy, and that's why I'm just saying that this communication, actually, I got caught on the short end of it, that I want to obey, but the process hindered it, because the letter goes in there, the letter goes back, and it goes in and goes out. And yes, there's many communications, but I only got like 3 letters, and that letter was greatly delayed. And I don't know why. It's the process itself frustrates me a lot. That I don't think my busy schedule is my excuse here for this. I'm not, asking for a mercy because of that. Just because I feel very frustrated being, in this position, that other people could be in the same position. And I hope that, this, maybe there will be a way that, a better communication. I'm just kind of bringing it up, even though, whatever number that's being said, I will accept that. And I'm not really trying to do that, but I think the process is terribly inefficient. And it costs a lot of work from the city, and also costs a lot of frustration from the citizens, that it just really made it very difficult. And I thought that, a phone call or something, I think she had my phone call. I mean, it may be more easier by this letter than waiting. I don't know what it is. 2 weeks later, I got a letter, and then I tried to figure out, and then there's another letter coming in. I have to deal with another letter. So I think it's the process itself I'm protesting, and then of course I don't like to be fined, so I'm protesting that as well. But I'm not, in no ways I'm trying to use my personal schedule as an excuse.
Right.
But thank you for you.
Thank you.
So just to summarize, Dr. Fu, it sounded to me like you were saying if the information didn't get to you every single time, that then the process couldn't go forward. You had the information, you're a professional, you easily would have thought, or to have your staff or someone else call and follow up. So this has been going on. These other people only had about a month before their properties got abated, if I looked at that correctly. And I guess my point is, you were not proactive, and you had a problem property that was a fire danger to your neighbors.
No, I'm proactive. That's why it dragged longer, because every time I acted on it. Because it's not like if I ignore the first one for a month, then I got assessed. I'm pretty sure that would be the case, but I acted upon it each time. But the problem is the feedback process. So I understand the fire part of it. And I think that there is an area that I wasn't happy in front of my property that belongs to the county, that really just have grass this tall, just beyond from the highway to my property, that nobody want to take care of. And I asked about people, and nobody want to take care of that part. So, but that's not the reason. That's a totally different story here.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, you were noticed that this is a problem, and you did not go and find the codes enforcement person. We don't have time for her to run out there and keep checking and contacting you. Like, you needed to contact her.
No, I did every time when she sent something, I responded by doing the things that she wanted me to do.
But then you didn't follow up to say, is it good enough so I'm not going to get fined? It was almost like, it sounds to me like you were thinking, hey, if it's not good enough, it'll just extend the deadline again.
No, that's not the case. The case is like, I didn't think the whole process would be so complicated that the whole, I didn't imagine the whole communication would be so complicated to a degree that everything got like a week or two delay of everything. So this is something I learned about the process where I can improve. but I'm not using this as the reason. I just state the fact of what happened during the process. And the reason that there was a delay because I acted upon each time, trying to get things taken care of. So if Miss Nikki come in and say, well, nothing was done, then she of course knows. And then she will probably quickly jump into the action of assessment and get the city. But the things I did majority of it to my understanding from my talk with the contractor that was the last person that she trusted. And so I think I did a very good job. So there's a whole thing that, my understanding from that point is that I did what I need to do. So, but the whole picture coming out of today is that I've been ignorant, I've been delaying, procrastinating all the stuff and then drag on this and now I'm here. It's a different picture.
Okay, I think we're getting a little repetitive here. So with that, thank you very much. I'm still looking for a motion, whether Councilor Richardson wants to make a motion or anyone else.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Randall.
I move to adopt resolution number 22-037, a resolution assessing the real properties located at 475 Knoll Drive, 1612 East 13th Place, and 750 Hostetler Street for the costs of nuisance abatement as presented.
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Councilor Randall and seconded by Councilor Long to adopt the resolution assessing the properties for the costs of nuisance abatement. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Fu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Item 10D is a approval of lease rates at the Columbia Gorge Regional Airport. Our airport manager, Mr. Jeff Renard.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. We're revisiting on a staff report that I put out last time in regards to the renewed interest in development at the Dalles Airport. And we had a question in regards to the, do I need to reread the whole thing or? Okay. Sorry. Try to expedite a little bit. Previously, there was a question in regards to the CPI reference that I had made in the staff report for the rate increase, annual rate increase of the lease rates. Present, staff is recommending that staff recommendation is to authorize staff to adjust the land lease rate 20 cents a square foot per year for the airside properties and 30 cents per square foot for the business park properties for the lease rate, and to commence a 2.6 annual rate increase for all applicable leases. Any questions as to that?
Any questions for Mr. Renard?
Just one, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Richardson.
Hi, Jeff. You said as part of the study, you found that your hangar rates are competitive to other markets, but they're, in fact, would be, even adjusted, would be very competitive.
Very competitive.
Really on the low end. I mean, this is a great deal for folks. Even adjusted.
It is. I mean, there is definitely some that were lower.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that they were competitive markets. The further west you go, the market, some of the rates were as high as 80 cents that we're not even close to. When you start getting up into the Seattle west side region, some of those markets are
Sure.
similar sized airports, but the ground is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
Looking towards Ellensburg and some of these other areas that's similar to what our market is, that's where I kind of set my tone between Madras, Ellensburg, Moses Lake.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm just wondering if our airport representative has any thoughts?
I've looked into this and seems reasonable and appreciate the adjustment as we were losing money and adjust all of that. The only thing I may have a question, the board, the airport board and the Klickitat County, where are they in the process of approving this as well?
The airport board, we actually had a committee that came up with these original rates. And I provided them with my study. We sat down and had lunch over this and determined that I guess that's where we came up with the average of the 2.6 when I made reference to the CPI was this year, our CPI rate is so high that to take the gentleman's lease that came up this year, he would have had an 8+% increase in his lease rate. That's where we determined that taking a rolling average over 5 years and using that number, we came up with 2.6. That put us at something more equitable to the city still getting an increase, but yet not growing the tenant base by.
It seems like a fair process that's been vetted and it seems reasonable. So yes, I support it.
I think as we,
The other question you had was, has the Lickitung County approved their side?
yes, well, it's been presented to them, I believe,
Wednesday,
today, Tuesday.
Tuesday.
I believe, I haven't spoken with Jake. I will tomorrow morning. We have our airport board meeting tomorrow morning. Jake was part of, Jacob Anderson with Lickitung County was part of the committee in this reference, so they are very aware of it.
County has to approve it on their own, the commissioners.
Right.
And that hasn't happened yet.
Not happened, unless it happened today. It was presented to them, but I don't know that it happened today. We'll have to find out.
Counselor Long?
Just a comment. I think that last time after you went through everything in detail, I think we were all ready to go forward. It was just the language was confusing. And so I really want to thank you for working on it and getting it down succinctly. And this is something obviously that's going to go in a contract and it's going to be easy for us to enforce. And that is wonderful. Thank you.
I have to give the thanks to Jonathan. Because
Well, I still.
he makes me look good.
He does give us the language, but you are bringing that forward and I'll just, I'm not going to bash anybody else, but I'll just say in the past, we haven't always had those things in place and you made sure that we had those things in place. So thank you.
Well, that's what I'm there for.
Any other questions or comments? How about a motion?
I think it's my turn, Mr. Mayor.
Counselor Richardson.
I move that we authorize staff to adjust airport land lease rates to 20 cents a square foot per year for airside properties and 30 cents a square foot a year for business park properties. And also to commence a 2.6% annual rate increase for all applicable leases.
Is there a second?
McLaughlin will second.
Been moved by Counselor Richardson and seconded by Counselor McLaughlin to approve the increased lease rates at the Columbia Gorge Regional Airport. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Item 10E is an ordinance amending the Dalles Municipal Code. Mr. Kara.
Thank you very much, Mayor Mays, members of City Council. Before you tonight, I have a proposed general ordinance number 22-1394, an ordinance amending the Dalles Municipal Code, Chapter 1.04, which is the city's election code. The city clerk brought to my attention an inconsistency between what our charter says and what our code says. And so very commonly, this can be the result of updating your charter and not updating your code. And so the city has had the previous iteration of our charter from 1994 historically provided the elective offices of this city, the position that you all sitting here tonight have been elected to, have historically been as the result of a vote by the electors residing within certain districts within the city, geographical districts, north, south, east, west, and an at-large position for the mayor. But at the 2020 charter update, the people of the city voted to revise the charter's election methodology from district specific to citywide, also known as at-large qualified elector pools. And so considering the fact that the charter preempts all other city ordinances, per the city clerk's recommendation, I drafted a general ordinance here updating it. This is effectively housekeeping. I haven't changed anything from the charter, nor am I authorized to. It's just to ensure that our municipal code reflects the terms that are dictated to it by the charter. And so with that, I would very much recommend moving to adopt General Ordinance number 22-1394, an ordinance amending the Dalles Municipal Code, Chapter 1.04, Elections Code for legal sufficiency, as presented by title only.
Counselor Long.
Sorry to do this right now, but are you 100% sure? Because I believe that our previous charter said that we had to live in the district that we were running to represent, but every person in the city voted on every counselor. It was very weird, and I had to go over it with Izetta, and I'm sure that's how it was on the ballot before we changed the charter. So I'm just only commenting on that because it's specifically in the ordinance, and I don't want to pass an ordinance.
What specifically is in the ordinance?
The 1994 City of the Dalles Charter provided the elective offices of the city would be nominated and elected by a vote of those electors within certain geographic districts and within the city limits. So the voters, the electors were not within geographic limits.
So we still have the districts. We just, anyone can vote for
Mhm.
when on the council, but we still have to reside in those districts.
Yeah, I have to reside
Oh,
in the district.
I see. So no, I'm not 100% sure about the 1994 charter. I got that information from older reports. I couldn't quite find the 1994 charter. And so, but with that said, I am 100% sure of the legal sufficiency of the actual ordinance. And so with that said, I would be more than happy. And again, I haven't said this in like a year. So the recitals are not part of the ordinance. This is just
Okay.
context for the reader, right? But it is good to have accurate context. And so thank you for catching that very
You could
nuanced
just
distinction.
strike the first
Sure.
whereas.
Sure. And so with that said, nothing else changes. Right. Okay.
But you're sure that, I mean, I wouldn't know because I'm elected at large, but it is true that if you were representing the West District, that the whole city, the West and East could vote for you?
There was a time when we had zones, and I represented a certain zone that, I don't know, about 8 years ago, maybe less, that was dissolved, and we went into at-large and total citywide election rather than just zones. That's what happened.
Yeah, that wasn't 8 years ago.
It
That
was
was
2018.
Council Runyon was,
I led that
yeah.
committee, and what was discussed was the fact that we had these districts or zones, yet the entire community voted for everybody in every zone.
Yes.
And it made no sense.
Yeah.
And the other thing we changed was moving the mayor from 2 years to 4 years and moved my office from 2 to 4, which I would like to rescind.
Me too.
In hindsight, you know, but
So what I'm
like
hearing,
another community election, I guess.
what I'm hearing is it was very easy for me to make this mistake. And so thank you for catching it. Very fortunately, we can, again, change this administratively on our end. Doesn't appear to be anything substantive. It's very much just a historical piece of context I use just to sort of start the process.
Or we can approve the ordinance as amended if you take out the one whereas clause.
Oh, that's exactly what I was going to change my recommendation to. And so thank you, Councilor Long, for bringing that piece of background information to the council's attention and my attention specifically.
I'm having a little trouble with our volume here today. I don't know why, but Jonathan, RC, could you read
Yep.
the part you
Oh.
think's a problem again?
Oh, the first whereas,
Is whereas the 1994 City of the Dalles Charter provided the elective offices of the city would be nominated and elected by vote of those electors within certain geographic districts of.
Yeah, it's incorrect.
Okay, so I believe what I'm hearing is Councilor Long and our city attorney are recommending that that paragraph be deleted from this draft of the ordinance, that the ordinance be adopted as amended.
Yep.
Taking out that one paragraph.
That's exactly right.
Okay. Do I have a motion to do that?
well, I'll make the motion since I was the one that drug us into this.
Good catch.
Yeah,
Second.
sorry.
That's a great catch.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Been moved by Councilor Long and seconded by Councilor Richardson to approve the ordinance as amended. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, now we are at item 10F, right?
No distraction.
This is the part of the ordinance, or excuse me, the agenda that's been amended tonight. We added an item 10F, and I'll turn it over to our city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to begin the agenda staff report that was included in your packet by emphasizing that staff has the intent and is actually currently undergoing efforts to review the exempt pay tables that were included in your packet comprehensively and holistically. Taking a look at each and every position on the table. We've been having conversations and having discussions about compensation philosophy and how that will help us ensure that the city's compensation is competitive and can attract and retain the excellent talent that we have. And that going through this process will complement the efforts that we recently concluded with the police union, and we'll be going into union negotiations with SEIU. And it's my hope at the end of that process, after concluding the negotiations with the two unions that we have and going through this compensation philosophy effort and exempt pay table amendment, that we would have looked at every position at the city, again, through that perspective of recruitment and retention. And it is my hope that we would have something to bring back to council early next year that could be incorporated in the process. But this is a substantial effort and will take quite a bit of work. And so as we've started this process and kind of started to dive into this conversation and starting to look at different positions and what we may see around the state, we've identified two items that have kind of really come to the forefront that require more urgent action. And so the two that I've detailed in my staff report is that in reviewing the position offerings throughout the community and the region, and it's become quite clear that the finance director's salary is not sufficiently competitive, and that relatively recent outside contractual work that the city's engaged in being fulfilled by different exempt staff did not include any additional compensation or incentives. And so those are the two items that we would like to address tonight. So before you is an action item to amend the exempt pay scale, which was included in your packet, adjusting the salary of the finance director to a separate line, along with seeking authorization to provide additional incentives to the exempt finance staff who are working to fulfill those contractual obligations with our local partners. One small Scrivener's error on the exempt pay scale is simply a grade lettering classification. You'll see that we've added, made a change to the public works director and police chief line. We listed it as AA. We will amend that to A1. If you'll see at the other end of the salary spectrum, down closer to the bottom, you'll see that there's already a grade AA. So that's just a small error we will correct. It doesn't change any of the compensation levels there. And so, as I said, we'd like to make these adjustments now to take effect immediately as we continue that effort to look at the exempt pay tables that we have and bring something more comprehensive back to the council as soon as we can. And with that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for our city manager?
I know this is a highlighted summary and whatnot, but I don't see, is there in the 10-year contract we've had, were there annual rate increases, based on a CPI or anything like that? And I don't see anything in here in the 15-year. Are there whatever price you're settled on for the 15 years, is that it? Every year it doesn't change?
So I believe you might be jumping to the next item on our agenda. That's the 10 and 15-year contracts for the operations OMI contracts.
Down here, what you were talking about.
Oh, sorry about that.
Sorry.
This is the additional item that we had come out as a supplemental agenda
Okay.
item for the.
And I don't have a copy of that, so.
Oh, okay.
There you
I
go.
believe that was something that was sent out by the city clerk last week.
I have a little envelope right here.
And see if there was a gap.
Sorry about that.
Emailed.
We've got some volume thing going on this week that we haven't had in the past. Well, I mean, everybody in the room, it's just been lower throughout the evening. Anyway.
Take a look at that.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay. Did you get your question answered, Counselor?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Any other questions for the city manager? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move to approve the amended exempt pay table included as attachment A as well as authorization to provide incentives for exempt staff working to fulfill ongoing contracts with local agencies.
Is there a second?
I'll second McLaughlin.
It's been moved by Counselor Randall and seconded by Counselor McLaughlin to amend the pay table and compensation amendment as
Something
presented. Is there any,
was.
Yes.
We get an effective date of the change.
if immediately, I thought you said.
Yes, included in the motion. I think as Daniel suggested.
It should be, Counselor Randall, would you please amend your motion to indicate that this is effective immediately?
Okay, I would so move. Want me to read it over again or?
I don't think that's necessary. Counselor McLaughlin, you
Yes, I'll
seconded?
yes, seconded.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to amend the pay table effective immediately. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Cleaves. 11A, renewal options for the Operations Management International Contract to operate our wastewater treatment plant. Mr. Anderson, Public Works Director.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of council. I probably don't need the microphone, but the item before you tonight is the renewal of the operations contract with OMI Jacobs for the contract operations of the wastewater treatment plant. I'll jump ahead just a little bit to give some context. What we're going to be seeking tonight, as even though we're in a discussion item, is direction from the council by consensus of which model of the contract we want to proceed with and how long of the contract so that we can wrap up the negotiations. The current wastewater treatment plant operations contract expires at the end of this fiscal year, June 30th of 2023. It was a 10-year contract that was extended by 5 years due to the timing of the last wastewater treatment plant upgrade project. And OMI has operated the city's wastewater treatment plant for the last 30 years. City Council had previously authorized staff to negotiate exclusively with OMI for a new contract as an alternative to issuing an RFP or a request for proposals. Through those negotiations, OMI has offered two different models to be considered for a new contract. First model would be exactly as what we have been doing, which is a contract with two different elements to it. A direct price element, which is actually the cost just to operate the direct cost to operate the contract. And the other is the management fee, which includes the overhead and the profit margins paid to OMI for each contract year. Those contract or elements are negotiated annually each time the contract is renewed, and they're negotiated separate from each other. Neither one is based on the other. The management fee contract has historically, in the current contract, been increased by a CPI, an agreed upon CPI factor. The one we've been using is the CPI for all urban customers in the US, plus a percentage, and it's been CPI plus 2%. Except in periods of very high inflation. If the inflation was at a rate of 7% or higher, the formula that was used was the CPI minus 1.5. The reality of that is in this last amendment, the one that's currently in place, we had a CPI factor of 7.5%. The management fee was increased by 6%, that CPI minus 1.5. So it worked both ways. The second model, which is available to us, has been offered by OMI, would be what they call a cost plus. And the management fee would just be a fixed percent of the direct cost. There wouldn't be a separate negotiation or a separate calculation for the management fee independent of the direct cost. Under the cost plus, the management fee automatically increases with increases in direct costs, regardless of whether or not there are increases in OMI's costs to manage the contract. It was presented to the city as a simpler type of contract to negotiate and to administer, and one worth considering, and one that other cities or customers are choosing to use in their contracts with OMI. The OMI, OMI presented different rebate options for the two contract models, which are summarized in table 1. I think I'll be able to anticipate one of the questions related to table 1 when we get to it. And it appears from that information and the projections provided that the cost plus model will be slightly higher in the total cost over the 10-year period than the current model of a direct cost element and a management fee. The second issue that we'll be asking for direction on is how long of a contract would the city council like to enter into? The first, for background, our first 3 contracts with OMI were each 5-year contracts. Then in 2008, we went into a 10-year contract, which, as I previously stated, was ultimately amended and renewed for an additional 5 years, making it a 15-year contract. In this set of negotiations, OMI has offered both 10 and 15-year options for the council to consider. There haven't been any challenges or downside from staff's perspective of the 15-year contract. And the 15-year contract provides some greater certainty for, I think, both parties over the longer period of time, and therefore allows for better planning and investments over the term of the contract. OMI has also offered some value-added services in the proposed contract with incentives onto them. And I need to offer a correction here. I mentioned in the staff report that the incentives were for a 15-year contract over a 10-year contract, and I misrepresented that. The incentives that are offered, and we'll be talking about, are actually for the cost plus type of contract instead of the direct cost management fee like we currently have. So the first value-added service would be the completion of a biosolids study. The treatment plant currently produces biosolids at about 3 to 4% solids, which are land applied for fertilizer. That's the way we dispose of our biosolids from the plant. It's gotten very expensive to haul product that's 97% water to fields that are up to 35 miles away with equipment, fuel, and labor costs, what they are. So the study would identify options and provide some expert recommendations for the best long-term solution for biosolids handling and disposal. And there are a lot of different technologies out there to increase the solids content of the biosolids produced to something closer to 17 to 20% instead of 3 to 4%. So offer the value of doing this study would be $90,887. OMI is offered to conduct the study for a reduced price of $79,337 under the terms of a direct cost management fee. And again, this is where I'm correcting what I wrote in the report. It's not for a 10-year contract. It's under the terms of a direct cost management fee type of contract. Or they'll provide the study to the city for free if we were to choose the cost plus contract. The second value-added service that was offered by OMI is an analysis of the wastewater treatment plant's renewable energy capacity. We conducted a similar study in advance of the last round of treatment plant improvements. That study used estimates and experiences at other plants and technology pilot testing at the plant prior to the project. But since that time, we've had some challenges meeting those renewable energy projections, and have encountered some unanticipated consequences. So it'd be beneficial, both the city and OMI, to reevaluate, reanalyze our renewable energy opportunities. The value of this analysis would be $36,735, and OMI is offered to conduct that study at a reduced price of $26,571 for a direct cost management fee type of contract, or for free with the cost plus contract.
Mr. Mayor, could I ask a question just because it's pertinent to right here? You keep saying that it's free, but is it free or it's included in we're paying for it, it's included in the cost?
I think the reality is it's included in the cost, and it's spread over, the period of time of the contract. I mean, that's the way the business, but we won't be seeing a bill for doing the study.
Right, we won't see the bill because it's in the other section.
And
So I just wanted to point that out. It's not free. We are paying for it. It's just not itemized.
And we do have a couple folks from Jacobs and OMI here tonight that I'll introduce at the end of the presentation. So if they want to provide a better explanation or better answer to that.
Okay, I just want, because that could be part of someone's decision making. So just
Absolutely.
clarifying.
With a renewed contract, OMI has also offered two other opportunities. The first is to support the city's upcoming efforts to renew our wastewater treatment plant discharge permit with DEQ, which expires in 2023, by conducting the required sampling at their expense. And they've offered to utilize their proprietary, what they call Pro2D modeling, to more thoroughly evaluate the plant's treatment capabilities, in part to inform a refinement to the city's capital improvement plans and make sure we're being as efficient with those dollars as we can, looking into the future. Table 1 provides the costs under the different scenarios. You can see at the top line, the biosolids study, what the city would pay to have that done under the current direct cost management fee model. And we show that costs of that study are included in the cost plus model options, both the 10 and the 15-year alternatives. We already talked about the renewable energy, and you see that included there in the table. Some other differences between the two models that have been offered in the negotiations so far. One is that in the model of contract like we currently have, any savings incurred throughout the year from the negotiated annual contract renewal cost, city and OMI share those 50-50. Under the cost plus, any savings are 100% rebated to the city, and any overages are charged 100% to the city. So we have those two differences. The first year prices are provided there in the table under the different models. I've provided in the first two columns, I've provided both the base price and the prices if we choose to undertake those studies. Again, we would be under no obligation to do the studies, but we think there's value in both of these efforts. And the costs, both of the first year and then the projected 10-year estimates. I believe the question that was being asked by Councilor Runyon is were there any escalating or increased cost adjustments included? And my recollection is that to use a number, we use 4% per year. We've had contract renewals, many years actually, under the current contract, where we've been in that 1 to 2% range. More recent renewals have been higher than that. The more recent renewal, I guess I should say, it's just really been the 1 year, most recent year that's been significantly higher. So I believe we use 4% as the escalator per year to come up with these projections of 14,000 plus 13 million in the 10-year cycle for each of the models. So at this time, we'll be asking the city council which contract model that the council prefers and how long of a contract. It's staff's recommendation that city continue to utilize the same contract model that we have for the last 30 years with OMI, and that being the direct costs and management fee model, where they're negotiated separately and identified separately within the contract. Staff does not believe that, for example, an increase in direct costs necessarily warrant a corresponding increase in the management fee. And an example of that, we recently saw 50% increases in fuel prices. Fuel prices are a part of the contract calculation. And this wouldn't mean the management fee would go up by 50%, but that portion of the calculation, we don't believe, just because fuel prices go up by 50%, the effort to manage the plant doesn't necessarily go up by 50% either. So we believe there's value in keeping those things separately. The proposed the proposed cost plus factor of 18.5% is higher than what we're currently paying at 17%. But again, there could be some value in the cost plus model where the city would be rebated 100% of any over budgeted direct costs, but then invoiced 100% for any over expenditures. Staff believes the current model where those are 50-50 splits provides a little more protection from volatility and costs to the city where those are 50-50s instead of 100-100. And lastly, staff recommends that entering into a new contract with OMI for a term of 15 years, renewable annually. It would still be coming back to the council every year for the approval of the continuation of the contract and the new price, like we've always done. And we believe that the 30-year term provides greater certainty to both parties. There's no budget allocation at this time. This is a discussion item to get direction. With the direction received from council, the staff and OMI will continue the negotiations focused only on one model and one term, with the expectation that we would bring back the final contract for the council's consideration, probably in February or March. That way, that current contract will be ready and in place, be effective July 1st, right after the first current one expires. So with that, the recommendation would be for the council to authorize staff to negotiate a new 15-year agreement with OMI for the operation of the city's wastewater treatment plant, which will include a management fee, which is to be calculated independent of its direct costs. I do want to mention, we do have Taylor Pointer. Taylor, maybe you can raise your hand with us. She's the area manager for OMI and is the manager for our wastewater treatment plant now. And on Zoom, we have Sean Moffett, who's the regional business manager for OMI. And I've been working closely with both of these individuals and a couple of others over the last several months to bring these options to the council.
Would either one of them like to make a very brief comment?
Thank you, everyone, for allowing me to be here today and for that explanation. I think I speak on behalf of all of Jacobs that we're just grateful to be entering into negotiations on 10-year, 15-year contract, regardless of whether we go with current model or the cost plus model. So on behalf of Jacobs, thank you so much for considering that partnership. It's been a great 1 year since I've been here, so I'm excited to continue to be a part of it. John, did you want to mention anything?
No, I think you covered that well. We really appreciate the opportunity to serve the city of the Dalles. We appreciate the opportunity to work with you as a council and also to work with Mr. Anderson over the many years since I think it's 1989 is when we started there originally. So it's been a very good partnership over that time, and we hope to continue that to meet and exceed your expectations. So
Thank you. Any questions from the council or any discussion?
Have none.
Thank you for your thorough report and explanation, Dave.
Okay.
Director Anderson, I should say.
Okay, does anybody like to make a motion?
Well, let me just say, I want to apologize for jumping ahead early. Early in the meeting, Nubia adjusted the volume up during the abatement process, but early on you added something to the agenda. I didn't have that second one. So I couldn't hear Matthew very well when he was talking there. I thought we were already in the one that was listed. So I apologize, but you answered my question well. I thank you.
Be a heads up.
I apologize. My only question is, if we were to go with this recommendation back here, is it important that the words cost plus model are in that recommendation? I don't see those words.
So the recommendation is actually that we utilize our current model, which is the direct cost management fee, not the cost plus model. And so if the council would prefer.
Said if, whatever, would it be important for those words to be in there? if we were to go with that model.
Yes, yes. If your choice was to go with the cost plus model, the action taken or the direction to be provided by council would be to use that rather than the way it's currently worded. And I could help with some language to do that.
So for the recommendation, we're just saying negotiate it the way that you've been doing it, that we don't really have to get specific when you come back with a.
Right.
You're going to come back with a
That is
contract, right? It's
And
quite-
it'll allow us to focus the rest of our discussions around one term and one contract model. And then we can wrap up the rest of the details of within the contract to bring back for council's consideration.
Great. Thank you.
So your recommendation at this point is not the cost plus.
Correct.
And then
Our
everything you were saying, it just made it sound like that really should be the one until I read the recommendation.
Well, I do like to give you options. That was not my intent.
Well,
Okay, would anybody like to make a motion?
Are we voting or giving
Well,
consensus?
Consensus.
giving direction on which one of those on that chart.
Does anybody have a problem with the recommendation by Mr. Anderson?
Move ahead.
Okay.
Recommendation's
Yep,
good.
happy with
we
that.
okay? Okay, I think we have your direction
Thank you.
from the city council. Thank you very much. Nice meeting you.
Here's Taylor again here in another meeting.
Okay.
Oh boy, you only want around in 15 years when nobody else will be.
No, I don't. I might be in this stack here. We need a motion to go into executive session. Pursuant to,
Did Izetta happen to leave a folder?
she gave me a script, but I don't have it.
On the agenda, we do have an ORS.
In accordance with ORS 192.6602H, I'm looking for a motion to go into executive session to consult with our counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed.
And no final action will be taken.
And no final action will be taken.
And we can reasonably expect to reconvene for open session 30 minutes,
And we can reasonably,
15 to 30 minutes.
okay. Thank you. Everyone here is excused. I believe we're not asking any other staff to stick around, are we?
No, but the news media representatives are allowed to attend this executive session.
And the news media is, of course, reminded that they are not to report on anything in the executive session. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you.